Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Bible Study Minute. Today we're taking a look at 1 Kings chapters 11 and 12. And in these chapters, we see the fall of Solomon and the divide of the kingdom of Israel. So, how does this happen? Well, it begins with decisions that Solomon makes over the course of time. So, one of the things that Israel was told not to do is not to intermarry with foreign women. And there were specific people that they were not to intermarry with because God knew that this would cause idol worship and worship of foreign gods. But Solomon doesn't listen, and he takes hundreds of wives from these areas. And as a result, over time, his heart is led away from the Lord because of this choice to not follow the Lord's command. And so he sets up places of worship for these foreign gods so that his wives are happy. And then he begins to also worship with them. And as a result, his heart is turned away from the Lord. The Lord is not pleased with this. And the Lord comes to him, tells him this, and lets him know that the kingdom is going to be ripped away from him. But he's going to allow his family to continue to rule over one of the tribes to keep his word to David. So, how does this happen? Well, it happens through his son Rehoboam. So, after Solomon's death, Rehoboam is made king, and the people realize that Solomon has made their life hard by making them work really hard, and they want Rehoboam to lighten the load, but he chooses not to. Instead of listening to the elders who tell him to listen to the people, he listens to his friends that he grew up with, and all of this is sovereignly orchestrated by the Lord to divide the kingdom. But Rehoboam does not listen to the elders, and as a result, the people turn away and choose to follow after another king. And back in chapter 11, we see that this other person is Jeroboam. And Jeroboam is really no better. So he is made king over the 10 tribes of Israel, and they become the kingdom of Israel. Then we have the kingdom of Judah. And that's what we're going to see in the divided kingdoms through the rest of the Old Testament. But what we see here with Jeroboam is, even though the Lord tells him that if he follows after him and does what he's supposed to do, that the Lord will establish his kingdom and so on and so forth, that is not the case. We very early see him setting up idol worship in Israel, and he does this because he does not want the people to turn back and go to Judah to worship. So he sets up 2 golden calves in 2 different locations, sets up his own festival, and this begins the demise of Israel. So what do we see here? Ultimately, we see 2 things. First and foremost, let's talk about Rehoboam. Rehoboam shows us the importance of listening to our elders. Our elders have walked before us. They are wiser. And just like we read in the Psalms and in Proverbs, the importance of seeking wisdom. Elders have wisdom, so we need to listen to them. But the most important thing that we see here is looking at the life of Solomon. Solomon is an example for us, showing us that we need to live a life well before the Lord, and not just in a moment, but for the entirety of our lives. And this shows us that we need to follow God all of our days, continually seeking to grow in Him and to worship and grow in holiness all of our days, and not to let little sins sit there and take hold of us, because if we do, then one sin leads to another, and those sins eventually turn our heart away from the Lord. So we don't need to be like Cain in Genesis chapter 4, verse 7, where sin is waiting there, waiting to attack and devour us. Instead, we need to be people who are quickly rooting out sin in our lives, continually repenting and turning back to the Lord. So that's my encouragement for you today as you take a look at these chapters. And until next time, grace and peace.